Whether it's a clash of ideas, a clash of corporate values, or just a good old fashioned clash of personalities, we all sometimes find ourselves backed into a confrontation corner. In the search for a resolution, the next steps you take are extremely important and can have serious repercussions. Well, fear not. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk, and I'll share a 6 step process that will keep you out of trouble.
A pocket-sized pep talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
About 9 years ago, I wrote a 4-part article miniseries dedicated to dealing with how to handle difficult behavior without direct confrontations. There are a handful of ways to professionally avoid confrontations, but that doesn't mean there's never a need for a confrontation. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to resolve and diffuse a situation using any number of professional techniques, a confrontation may be necessary. Now, I don't want to encourage you to just be cautious or tread lightly. I want to provide you with a well thought out process that will protect you. I haven't had to use it often, but I've always had a healthy level of confidence just knowing it's there. So when all else fails and a confrontation is necessary, I'd suggest you lean on this 6-step process that has served me well, real well. All right, so step 1, just start with, I need your help. See, by beginning your discussion this way, you accomplish 2 tasks. First, you have a simple transition to begin your conversation. In addition, beginning this way will reduce the feelings of an aggressive confrontation to follow. You are beginning by setting the stage for a frank conversation, and that's what we're after. All right, let's try step 2. Use these words. The situation is. This might be the most important step of all, because using these 3 words, the situation is, forces you to describe the situation and encourages both parties to deal with the facts, not the feelings. Clearly state the problem. Do your best to restrain yourself from using the word you. This will help the other person, that individual you're confronting, to look at the situation for what it is and reduce the chances of an emotional response. All right, let's go to step 3. The results that causes are. See, use those words and you begin to shift gears. Now you're allowing the individual you're confronting to see the results or consequences of his or her actions. Try and explain the problem that these actions are creating. And once again, try and avoid using the word you. Just stick to the facts, not the feelings. All right, let's go to step 4. 3 more words for you. I personally feel. Now, this is an optional step, and it's going to depend on the relationship you have with the person being confronted. If it's an established relationship, like a spouse or a close friend, this step may be appropriate, fits real well. However, if you don't know this person well, or you're unclear whether to even use this step, leave it out, avoid it. Unfortunately, those who don't know you well really won't care how you personally feel. The conversation runs the risk of spiraling out of control because of that particular reference. All right, we're almost there. Step 5, 3 more words. In the future. Now, see, you start a sentence with in the future. At this point, you can begin outlining the solution or the recommendation or the suggestion you're presenting. This is the hopeful resolution of the problem and the avoidance of possible confrontation. Make it fair, make it reasonable, and stick to it. Last step, step 6. I want you to gain agreement. This final step allows you to see and confirm that the problem is resolved with the person you're confronting. It also makes it much more difficult for that person to create the problem again, Don't assume anything here. If the person you're confronting agrees, push forward. If this person cannot agree, spell out the consequences. In a corporate environment, make sure you clarify exactly what the consequences will be before any confrontation. You don't want to create a conflict between you and the company you're working for by stating a consequence that has not been agreed to by the corporation. At Xerox, where I worked, the consequences were very clear for not being able to change disruptive behaviors and the failure to have a person agree to change these behaviors. Every instructor understood this before ever stepping in front of a classroom. Those consequences were pretty harsh. They were to rebook that student's flight and send that person home immediately. Now, in my 10 years at Xerox, I can remember the times I was unable to get someone to behave properly and actually needed the confrontation. Twice. And I can also remember the times I couldn't gain agreement and needed to implement the consequences. 0. See, I was able to clearly communicate what the consequences would be. And I knew I had the commitment of the company behind me. This empowered me and gave me all the confidence I needed. All right, so let's wrap this up. There are so many ways to correct the behavior of others without a full-fledged confrontation. Asking questions, listening to the answers, and having these conversations in private are just a few tactics you might use. But this technique should be used when other options have failed, because when done properly, this should be the last conversation you have regarding this problem. This technique should be used when other options have failed, because when done properly, this should be the last conversation you have regarding this problem.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.